All right, good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to go through really the content for week 10, which is where we are. Okay. So the topic is going to be preparing for your literature review presentation. There's not really any reading for this week. Okay. I delayed the due date for the bibliography. Originally, I had the bibliography due on the 26th, which is this Friday. But after thinking about it and reading some of your article topics, I just thought that you could use an extra week, basically 2 weeks, to try to find enough articles to develop your bibliography. And we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to give you some guidance on what to do and on, what that bibliography should look like. Okay. So I'm not going to give my literature review presentation until next week. I'm going to pull it up and kind of show it to you here in a second. But for the most part, I really want to focus on your topics and then the bibliography. Okay, so a lot of you submitted good topics. Okay, I do want it to be sort of related to the field of exercise physiology in some way. Okay, so it could be nutrition, it could be working with a specific population, any disease that could be affected by exercise positively or negatively. Those are kind of the broad categories. Supplements would be fair game as well. Really any health related topic that you wanted to look into. Like when I was a student, I was interested in like prolonging the human lifespan. That's called longevity, so that could be something. But most of you submitted good topics. I might have suggested a slight modification on how to tweak it to make it more specific because, the more focused it is, the easier it'll be to locate articles, and you want to always keep that in mind as well, okay? If you're still searching for a topic, consider what I've said and send me something, and I'll give you some feedback on it. Okay, there was a few of you who didn't send me anything, and that's not a good place to be right now because we want to nail down our topic, and then this week and next week we want to start finding articles to support that topic, and then ultimately use those articles to create a presentation. Okay, so I did slightly update the syllabus with some due dates, but this is the current one, and this is posted on Schoology as of right now. So what I'm going to do is expand this window. I don't know if you could see me, so let's do this. Let's close that. Pull this in. All right, so we're in our course shell on Schoology here. I'm going to go to the content folder, week 10. So I have the assignment in this folder for the bibliography, but I did change the due date, so just notice that, okay? Now, I guess first I'm going to open, this is a sample bibliography that I pulled from a different class that I've taught in the past. So you can use this as kind of a guide. This was submitted by some students that I had in class. Again, these students partnered up and were in a pair and they did the presentation together. So each article that they found is cited here by number, okay? This uses the exact same format that I asked you to cite your previous article in. So the one that you did your article presentation on, prior to that presentation, you submitted your citation using a specified format. I want you to use the exact same format, and it should look like what you see on the screen here, okay? Now, what you'll also notice about this is you order these alphabetically, and you alphabetize them using the last name of the first author listed. So in this case, Barakat. They happen to find 4 articles by the same lead author, which is fine because often you'll find that if you're looking for a certain topic, there might be one author who's written a lot of articles on that topic, and you can use all of that person's articles if you want to, okay? And then we number them as well. So the first 4 references are all by the same author, but the fifth reference, is by Bell. So this would come next alphabetically. That one's number 5. And then as we go down, you see that the alphabetical order continues, each reference is numbered accordingly, okay? You want to number your references because then in your presentation, when you're citing a specific reference, you just put that number into the presentation, as I will show you here in just a second. Now, they have 15. I think I told you 10, but I've also given you a range of 8 to 12. Okay, so in that 8 to 12 range is what I'm looking for. So you need to find 8 to 12 articles about your topic. Okay, and what you're going to have to do first is cite the articles using the format that you see here on the screen, alphabetize them, number them, and this is going to be the assignment that you're going to submit by next Friday, April the 2nd at the latest. If you want to go ahead and do it this week and submit it, that's fine. But you're going to do it by next Friday at the latest, and this is a 50-point assignment, so it's a pretty big chunk of points. So you want to make sure you take your time with it, do it properly, ask me questions if you have any. But this, again, what I have on the screen right now, and this is located in the Week 10 content folder, this is a template for what your bibliography should look like, okay? So what we'll go look at next is a presentation that I developed, and I'll present this to you next week. But I'm going to open it up just to show it to you and talk about it for right now. I'm actually going to pull it up from a different, let's see, a different folder. Where is that? Okay. All right, so just as we did with the first presentation, here's my title slide. The presentation is by me. Actually, I want to skip to the end first to just show you. So at the very end of this presentation, I will have my bibliography. Now, what I just did is I took a screenshot of a Word document because for this presentation, I have 35 references, which is a lot. I did this presentation, or I did this research because I was trying to get an article published about this topic, but they didn't accept the article. But I didn't waste the work. I just used it to create a presentation instead, which I give to students in different classes. Okay, but my point is that here is my bibliography that I used for this presentation. Yours will be similar to this, but of course I only asked you to have about 10 references, so it'll be much shorter. Okay. Now let's go back to the first slide. So my topic is high intensity interval training, okay, and specifically, are there different ways we can set the variables to get the most out of our training, okay? So in the beginning here, I do give an introduction on the topic, generally about HIT training, and then specifically about the variables. Now notice, as I'm talking about different things, I'm citing the sources where I got that information. So this is where the numbers in your bibliography are going to be plugged into your presentation, as you'll see here. You know, and I'm talking about different populations. Each of these populations is cited in a different article, and those are listed here as well. I then, in my second slide, and this is pretty similar to what we did in the last presentation, I will get more specific and talk about the variables. Again, each bit of information is cited by a source. And then continuing to get more specific and now talking about the variables that you can manipulate in a training protocol. Ultimately culminating in what are we trying to answer with this presentation, okay? So what I recommended in previous classes, and we can do this in this class as well, is you then sort of state your questions, okay? And what I'm going to ask you to do is, as a result of your topic in general, come up with 2 specific questions that you're going to try to answer in this presentation. So my 2 specific questions is, what is the most effective mode to use while participating in HIT? Okay, and by mode, I mean, is it the treadmill? Is it a kettlebell? Is it a bicycle, right? What's the mode, okay? Then my second big question is, what is the optimal way to set up the training variables of intensity, duration, rest period, etc., to maximize the benefits of this type of training, okay? So what I'll then do is go into question 1. So my heading for the next few slides is going to be, about question 1, and sort of I'm going to have it up there to remind my viewers what it is we're talking about. Okay, so then I go into a bunch of the research I found to help me determine the answer to this question here. And again, each of these bits of information is cited by a source. Okay, that's important because I'm not coming up with this information myself. I'm getting information from other researchers. Okay, and I'm just restating what they found. That's why I have to cite this information. Okay, so you should be doing that in your presentation as well. Okay, I'm going to continue with question 1. More information relating to question 1. A third slide about question 1, and this is just still, again, providing more information. A fourth slide, and then ultimately I'm going to culminate in trying to have an answer to my question 1, which I titled that question 1 conclusions. Okay, so based upon all the stuff that we talked about in the last 4 or 5 slides, this is the consensus of the information that we cited. Okay. From there, I'm then going to transition to, I have more question 1 conclusions. Now we're going to go and notice that I did, I put some pictures in, because I'm talking about specific devices on this slide. So for instance, a Versa Climber is this here, the Airdyne bike, which I cite here, that's this bike here. So if you can put pictures in, that always helps to give some visual aids. Okay, now we're going to get into question 2. Okay, I state the question here, and then I'm going to go through the different variables and again different populations. Okay, and then in this particular slide, I have kind of like a sub-conclusion that I'm going to make. Okay, here again, I'm still addressing question 2. I do admit or reveal that there is some conflicting research. Right, that means that one study found this, one study found the opposite, and that's okay that you find that. You just want to report it. Okay. Disagreement is actually okay in the world. We don't all have to agree on everything. Disagreement happens. In fact, it should happen. We're not all the same. We're not all going to agree on everything. Okay. In science, that's what we should have. Okay. So continuing with question 2, again, a sub-conclusion on this slide because I'm looking at different variables, right? So this one, variable 1 is exercise intensity. Variable 2 is exercise duration. So I come up with a sub-conclusion for each variable. Variable 3 is rest period length, sub-conclusion on rest period length. And then my final conclusions. Here I'm addressing both questions 1 and question 2. Future direction. So as I was doing this research, and I hope you find this as well, is there's going to be some gaps in the research that there's not answers for. And again, that's okay. We don't know everything, right? That's why we still learn, is because we want to continue to increase our knowledge base. So here I suggest some future direction. So in the future, if somebody was going to do research on this topic, maybe they would look at the Airdyne. That's a bike that is used a lot, but there's not a lot of research on it. Okay. Other variables that might be researched because there was not much information on these is like range of motion, the cadence, etc. Okay. So that's how I finished my presentation. I have a final conclusions slide and then a future direction slide. And then the last thing is the bibliography, okay, which I already showed you, okay? So again, next week I'm going to present this to you formally, kind of like you'll be presenting it to me. But I wanted to give you a little guidance on how we construct the presentation. Okay, so just to recap, you'll have your title slide, you'll do your general introduction, and you'll have a few introduction slides that will get more specific as you go, culminating in your questions. Like, what are you specifically looking for in this topic? What are you trying to find out? Okay. And if you need some feedback on that, email me, remind me what your topic is, and maybe I can help you determine some questions that you'll look for. But this really should help you find your articles. So what I might suggest is before you start looking for articles, figure out your questions that you want to really tackle, and then go from there. Now, some of you kind of submitted questions anyway as your topic, so you have already kind of done this step. So you may not need to develop more questions if you already submitted an overall question. Okay. Once you do that, then you're just going to find the articles and you're going to divide it up. Like I said, you do need to cite everything that you say should come from a source. So that's where all these numbers obviously correspond to the numbered items in my bibliography. And that's it for now. So let me get out of this and go back to Schoology real fast. There was one other thing that I had in this folder that I wanted to show you. Is that I did actually write an article that got published using kind of this same method of researching. And I put that article in the folder if you wanted to take a look at it. So the title is Evidence-Based Alternatives to Popular Exercises. That's me, David Michael Jett Jr. So scrolling to the bottom, you'll just notice like I have a bibliography in this article that's very similar to what we just looked at, right? So we did the research, we had our questions, we found articles to help us answer the questions that we had. And then myself and my co-authors here, we wrote the article and we used these. These are our former graduate assistants that we used as models for pictures that we took to show some of these exercises that we recommended. But this is a kind of an interesting article. Most of the content is in this giant chart that we created. So, but the reason I'm showing you this is because, you know, say that you do this presentation and you go on to graduate school and you need to write an article of some sort that you could even get published one day. You know, if it takes a lot of workshopping, but doing this kind of research that I'm sort of teaching you all how to do in this class, this is what a lot of your instructors might do as they're writing articles that they publish in journals and things like that, or even, you know, writing textbooks. If you look in the back of a textbook, you'll notice that there's, in each chapter has 50 to 100 sources. So they're doing the same type of research that you all are doing in this class, right? So if you're going on to graduate school or anything else in life, or you're going to be doing some writing, presenting, I'm hoping that you're learning some valuable skills in this course, okay? So I think I'm going to wrap this video up now. Again, if you have questions about your topic, you want help developing your questions, reach out and let me know and I can help you. Your bibliography is due not this coming Friday, the 26th, but the following Friday, the 2nd. I wanted to give you a little bit more time to develop it. For finding your articles, just do the same thing that we did for the last presentation. You know, you'll use Google Scholar, you'll use the search feature in the library that I showed you how to do. If you need a reminder on how to do that, we can go back to, let's go look and see where it is. So I don't tell you the wrong folder. Must be in the week 2. Yeah, in the week 2 content, it gives you the instructions on how to utilize the library off-campus search functions. So if you already know how to do that, just do that. But again, you're going to need to find scholarly articles that are in journals, not magazine articles, blog posts, etc. These need to be like research articles, okay? All right, well, that's going to do it. Please reach out if you have questions, and next week I'll come back and present my presentation so you can get a feel for what it should look like. Talk to you all soon. Bye.